My name is Glenn Titus Campbell. CVM. See it happen.
Good evening. Iran has launched 140 missiles and drones at the United Arab Emirates, 63 at Qatar. The Strait of Hormuz, the single most important energy choke point on the planet, that has been declared closed by Tehran. And Jamaicans are in the middle of it. The war that began on February 28th, thanks to President Trump ordering a campaign he calls, quote, massive and ongoing. Well, tonight we examine what those strikes mean for those in the Middle East and those far away here in Jamaica. We check in with a Jamaican in Abu Dhabi and find out the reactions and concerns of Americans as their president has pulled them into a new war. In Trinidad and Tobago, a second state of emergency has been declared in 8 months. The opposition is calling it governance by Band-Aid. In South Korea, a former president sentenced to life imprisonment for insurrection. We draw the line directly to Jamaica's constitution. And oil prices. Well, this morning they're at $83 for a barrel, up $10 from last week. Analysts say 100 is possible. And Jamaicans will feel it at the pump, on the electricity bill, and in the supermarket. This is not a distant war. Tonight, we show you exactly how it arrives on your doorstep. I'm Jody Ann Quarry, and this is Lead Story. Tonight, Americans and Jamaicans are confronting the domestic and global consequences of a war that was triggered when the United States, alongside Israel, launched Operation Epic Fury, a coordinated military campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran. That campaign included the targeted killing of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, in an airstrike on Tehran. A strike that has now catalyzed a broad regional conflict and intense political debate at home. As of this morning, Iran has struck the United Arab Emirates with approximately 140 missiles and drones. Qatar has been struck with 63. These are not military installations in remote desert areas. These are in major cities like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Doha. Cities where Jamaican nurses, construction workers, hospitality professionals, and teachers live and work. So the fallout isn't just local, it's hitting the doorsteps of our diaspora in the Gulf. Let's take you to see exactly what it looks like in the areas that we're talking about, so you can point them out on a map as we have an ongoing conversation about what conflict in the Middle East means for us here at home.
This evening, we're breaking down why the escalating tensions between the United States and Iran matter, not just for the Middle East, but for Jamaica and the global economy. Firstly, for context, Iran is located in Western Asia, often referred to as the Middle East, bordering the Persian Gulf and sitting directly along one of the most important oil routes in the world, the Strait of Hormuz. Now, here's why that matters. About 20% of the world's oil supply is shipped through through that narrow channel between Iran and Oman. That's about some 20 million barrels per day of oil, leaving Gulf producers like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, and the United Arab Emirates to markets around the world. Plus, that route also facilitates the transportation of LNG supplies that power Europe. The ongoing strikes now disrupt that shipping route, and the threat alone pushed global prices up. For countries like Jamaica that import oil, that means higher gasoline prices, rising electricity costs, and more expensive goods overall. But it doesn't stop there. Another critical choke point is the Bab el-Mandeb, a narrow passage connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. Now, it's essential for ships heading toward Europe and the Suez Canal. So if both Bab el-Mandeb and the Strait of Hormuz are affected at the same time, you're looking at a serious squeeze on global energy and shipping routes. Oil tankers may have to reroute, so insurance costs would spike, shipping delays would increase, prices rise everywhere. And when oil prices rise, transportation, food production, manufacturing, just about everything becomes more expensive. So while the conflict may seem far from the Caribbean, its economic shockwaves can reach our shores very quickly.
So that's Amoy. They're giving us an overview of what it is that we're looking at. But from Riyadh to Abu Dhabi, Jamaicans are also witnessing the dawn of a regional war. So what exactly has led us to this point? Let's take a listen to BBC.
We begin with the breaking news from the Middle East. Iran is ramping up airstrikes around the region in response to U.S. and Israeli attacks. All Americans are being urged to leave the Middle East. The wave of Iranian airstrikes now prompting U.S. embassies in Iraq, Jordan, and Bahrain to order non-emergency personnel to leave their posts. In the meantime, the Trump administration is shedding new light on the justification for attacking Iran and where this conflict is headed next. ABC's Marcus Moore continues our coverage from Doha, Qatar, one of the countries now being targeted by Iran. Marcus, good morning.
Well, hey, Hannah, good morning. There have been new intercepts over Doha this morning, and you can hear the massive and loud booms echoing through the city. And we've seen a wave of airstrikes across the region overnight, targeting Americans and American interests. The Trump administration is responding, saying Iran has yet to see the full scale of this U.S. military operation.
Overnight, President Trump vowing to retaliate after the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia was hit by Iranian drones. Officials say the embassy, relatively empty at the time, sustained only minor damage. A fire was also reported at the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait. It was in that country where the Pentagon says 6 American service members were killed and 18 others were injured during an Iranian attack on a tactical operations center. U.S. officials vowing to ramp up attacks.
The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now.
Chaotic scenes playing out across the Middle East. At least 11 countries are now involved in this expanding conflict. Qatar says it shot down 2 Iranian bombers, the first report of Iran sending warplanes into Qatari airspace. The State Department is now urging all Americans to leave the Middle East, quote, due to serious safety risks. But much of the region's airspace is on lockdown. Flight trackers show just how many flights are avoiding the area.
And so we are watching what's going on from home. But among those watching the skies in the region is Sasha Taylor Williams, a Jamaican national in Abu Dhabi. Her story is one of thousands. Professionals and workers now caught in the crosshairs of a geopolitical storm.
I am doing well. I'm in good spirits. I'm really calm given the circumstances. And I think that's partly because I am a resident of Waterhouse. I grew up in Waterhouse, Jamaica. And I think that has shaped my approach to situations like this, where things aren't really necessarily in your control. So you just have to just keep calm and, keep yourself humble and keep focused on certain things. So I am in good spirits. I am adjusting, and I am also taking in information as much as I can without overwhelming myself. So I think all those factors have helped me to feel that sense of calmness that I am feeling. Yes, you see and you hear different things around you, but one of the things that I see a lot and hear a lot is that the people around me are continuing with their lives. People are going to paddle, people are going to gym, people are taking walks, people go to the pool, people are continuing with their lives, right? It's not to say that you are desensitized to what's happening, but there is that sense of safety that you feel based on the number of interceptions that have happened over the past few days. Within my community as well, there is a group of Jamaicans that I'm close to, and our support and interactions and checking in with each other. You know, as Jamaican, we love laugh off things, right? So we've been laughing a lot. We check in and kind of have group chats. On Sunday, I met up with one Jamaican. We went to church as usual, and then we went for coffee. So it's like you live your life, but you have that sense of awareness that something is happening, and that thing is entirely out of your control. And I think that suggests that we are feeling safe. Right? We do feel a sense of safety, especially in terms of the communications that we get. There was a there's a press meeting today, press release or media release today, and it kind of outlined the events that have happened and what were the measures taken. There's been the leader of the country has been in the malls, just making sure that he feels the energy of the people around him that he's tasked to protect. And things are continuing. Families are still going to iftar. I was supposed to go to iftar with one of my colleagues, but we couldn't make it today, right? So we do feel a sense of safety, and we do get, as I said, there is a group of Jamaicans. We're supposed to have a town hall meeting tomorrow online, which is kind of partly to give a pulse check as well as to give information on what we can do to stay safe. The advice that was given to us by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is effective because it's the same thing that we've gotten here from the government here, which is to shelter in place. And I do feel that my location is secure enough given the circumstances. If I wanted to leave right now, I think I'm capable of, because we have explored our options, especially in our close-knit Jamaican group. We have our visa options outlined, we have our exit plans outlined, and it was beautiful to see on the first instance over the weekend when it happened, how quickly we responded as a community, right? We rally around each other and we kind of say, all right, this is the way forward. What are we going to do? Who's going to meet up with who there? And so on and so forth. So it was really good to see our response to it, that Jamaican resilience really stepped out over the past few days. I'm hearing from my family, but one other thing is that you have to be in it to understand it, right? This is an experience that what you see and what you are in are far different, polar opposites, right? And therefore, I'm trying to reassure them that we are fine. I'm fine. We're doing well here. It takes a little adjustment, and I understand the concerns, but just trust and believe that we are protected so far, and things are going as life would continue as usual, if that makes any sense. They are reacting strange in the sense that it is new for them. My family is, as I said, we lived in Waterhouse, so it kind of new for them to kind of adjust to that, because it's a different reality and you're not here to protect the ones that you love. But they also understand that the fact that I'm able to still do my daily activities, I am still able to go to work and still able to go to the gym, it means that there is some sense of safety that I am experiencing, and as I said, I have that community with me as well. What would I like to say to Jamaicans who are watching news? Thank you for the prayers. We really appreciate it. And it makes a world of difference with a simple text to say, all right, all things are going over this. So, like, it makes a world of difference, especially the prayers, because we are praying as well. And it's given the seasons that we're in now, it's important for us to pray and to exercise our faith, right? And and that has made another world of difference, is the level of faith that we have and how we are leaving it into God's hand, and as well as how we are making our own actions towards keeping safe. So we just want to say thank you for the support, thank you for the messages, thank you for the concerns, and just keep in the know of what is happening. Try not to overwhelm us, because say sometimes people can experience anxieties, right? And we don't want to trigger anybody in this time, but you want to give your support, and your support can look like a simple text message. It can look like a little big up, a little me think about you, and that way we can say, okay, back home remembers that we're still here and we still feel the love, and we are loving on each other here as well. So thank you so much, and we will stay safe. And hopefully this will end. This shall pass. Bye.
That's Sasha Taylor-Williams there in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. Stay with us inside Lead Story after the break for more here on CVM Television.
Jamaica's unemployment rate has fallen to 3.3%, down from 13.2% in 2016. Our government's continued focus on job creation is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is...
Every dream conquered is another dream gained. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard, and the music keeps on playing, and the people them I say we are my show tonight. Oh, what a feeling! Don't stop dreaming. Keep on believing in the power of the feeling. Whatever you want, take a chance. Song in your heart, step in your dance. You got a spark, don't fit the dark, shine your lights on.
Ready, tech, grow! Business is fast, easy, flexible, and costs less. Oh, entrepreneurs, let's go digital! The government of Jamaica and the European Union present Digital Jamaica Training Series. Learn how technology grows your business. Choose the right digital tools. Manage your staff, customers, and money digitally. Data security and privacy. Artificial intelligence. We'll be in every parish. Apply online. www.jbdc.net. Log on fast. Digital Jamaica. Powering connectivity for MSMEs.
The question the world is asking tonight: why now and why this? The Trump administration has pivoted from America first to America at war, launching a campaign intended to dismantle Iran's military architecture. The campaign began on February 28, 2026, with President Trump speaking from the White House and on his social media platform, describing it as a, quote, massive and ongoing operation. It, he says, is intended to destroy Iran's missile and military capabilities, prevent Tehran's nuclear escalation, and ultimately roll back its regional influence. He has suggested that the campaign may last weeks rather than days. But as the president claims the Iranian Navy and Air Force have been decimated, the domestic backlash is brewing. In Washington, the constitutional alarm bells are ringing. Does the president have the authority to do this without a vote from Congress? And Iran isn't staying quiet either. Tehran has confirmed the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, a seismic event that has triggered 40 days of mourning and, from the regime, a vow of unimaginable revenge. Retaliation has already begun. Ballistic missiles have targeted Israeli territory, and Hezbollah has joined the fray from Lebanon. The conflict is no longer contained. It's now a regional wildfire. Joining us to discuss this are two Jamaican American attorneys at law. Wayne Golding and Latoya Harridan-Lodge. Wayne, Latoya, thanks so much for joining us inside Lead Story.
Thank you for having us.
I have you both here with me at a time where the world is looking and saying, what has your president done? Latoya Harridan-Lodge, since it's your first time with us here inside Lead Story, talk to us first. What exactly is going on? As Jamaicans are watching and seeing what has taken place, there is a big conversation here as to the president's decision-making process. He's confirmed 49 senior Iranian leaders were killed under U.S. constitutional law. Does he require permission, congressional authorization to do the thing that he has now done?
Well, that was usually the standard operating procedure. I think we've come to realize under this second round of this administration that standard operating procedures are no longer. We've come to realize that he's taken on an entirely different view of things. The rule of law seems to have no effect at this time. Supreme Court rulings seem to have to be falling on deaf ears. Congressional authorization seems to be just an option rather than a mandate. So at this time, we are not operating under regular circumstances, and this type of action is in clear violation of the Constitution without congressional approval. And like I said, we have not been operating under standard operating procedures for this last year and 2 months since the administration has gotten into power for a second time.
We're watching Wayne Golding, and you've been with us inside Lead Story before, talking to us about some of the changes that Latoya said, the last year and 2 months have been different. There have been certainly a raft of changes that have come now. We're watching, though, the United States, along with Israel, escalate a conflict that many thought was at the negotiating table, thinking that they were already sitting down with Iran now to hash out what has taken place. And now we see this taking place instead. Bombings of major areas in Iran and the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. We're watching this, Wayne Golding. Are you shocked that President Donald Trump has done this?
No, we are beyond being shocked by the action of this administration. We are even not surprised because it's been that way since they've achieved the power, and power absolute corrupts. We have seen where the guardrails that this democratic country has been used to for over 200 plus years have been totally destroyed. And there is no telling what will be next. You wake up the next morning wondering what else will we face. Everything we're seeing here is unprecedented. These people have made it known that they cannot be taken at their word. They were at the negotiating table and they decided to take their ball up and leave. And now the wrath of war is upon not only the Middle East, but the world, because this is going to affect the entire world. And as a transplant, as a diasporan, I'm so concerned about the choices that our diasporan youth have made to join the military, relying on sensible decision making. And we understand the military is about protecting the homeland, and war and death is involved. But we have an inordinate amount of Caribbean people who have decided to join the military to defend this country no matter what, to listen to the commander-in-chief. And the value of their life is what concerns me. The value of these military soldiers, men and women, fathers, brothers, uncles, sisters. Is their life worth what is going on right now?
We're going to listen here briefly to a short video explaining how we got to this place. How do we get to the place that the United States and Israel now struck Iran on February 28?
Why did the US and Israel attack Iran? Lots of people will be aware that there was a talks process ongoing, so wondering why it's happened now.
Well, it's hugely controversial because the legality of this war that they have started is questionable. There wasn't congressional approval for it. President Trump did not go to Congress. This was something that Israel and the United States had cooked up already in advance in case talks didn't go the way they wanted. Now, the talks in Geneva were making progress on the nuclear file. Oman was mediating those talks. Dr. Badr al-Busaidi, who's the Omani foreign minister, said, look, we've got a breakthrough. We can solve this on the nuclear side. But there were two other issues which Israel was pressing the United States to press the Iranians for, and the Iranians refused to discuss them. That was curbing Iran's ballistic missile program, and we've seen from all these missiles that are flying around the Gulf at the moment, they've got a lot of these ballistic missiles. That was one, and the other was Iran's support for its proxy militias around the region. So Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas in Gaza, and a number of militias in Iraq. Iran said, no, that's off the table. We're not going to discuss those. And that's why back on Thursday night, Donald Trump said, I'm not happy with the way these talks are going. And Marco Rubio said something similar.
So we're watching that then, Latoya, having heard what Wayne Golding has said. This is also something that polling is showing is deeply unpopular in the United States. Americans don't understand why they're here, why they're going to war with Iran. They're not quite sure what the plan is, how long it's supposed to take. Initially, they were told a few days. Now they're being told a few weeks, with President Donald Trump saying it could go longer. If it's an unpopular war in the United States, does that legally matter? Does that push the president to come out?
Well, we've seen that nothing at this point pushes the president except his own morality, as he has stated. We are in a position where prior to this war, domestic policies needed to be addressed. We were in a situation with high inflation. We're in a situation where tariffs had been imposed on our allies, causing the cost of goods and services to have increased substantially. We then had a ruling by the Supreme Court identifying that these tariffs were illegal, and then that did nothing. There was then a response that there's going to be an additional 10 or 15% tariffs on things without regard to what the United States Supreme Court stated. So we were already in a position where, domestic policies needed to be addressed. Residents and citizens here were concerned about the cost of groceries, the cost of services, just regular everyday life. Then you add tariffs to that. Now you add a war that, our opposition has said they're closing the Strait of I think it's Hormuz.
Hormuz, yes.
And they're closing the strait, which means then that the transportation of oil and gas and so forth in that region, there's going to be a delay. With that additional delay, there's going to be, all manner of snowball effects that then comes back to domestic policy, then comes back to how does it affect our cost of goods here. That's going to absolutely have a driving and an increase there. Cost of gasoline. So domestic policies that needed to have been addressed prior to the war, and then now we've added a war to this, people are concerned. How are we going to live over these next few months? They say it's supposed to be a few weeks. It might drag on into a few months. How then are we going to be able to afford some of these things that already went up? We're already dealing with inflation. We're already dealing with abandoning our allies and imposing tariffs, which have now caused, significant problems.
Well, let me pause there, because we're talking about that abandonment of allies later tonight inside Lead Story Prime at 8 and what that does for the Caribbean. But we'll take a break here inside Global Lead and come back, continuing to look at now what this does for the United States, for Jamaica, and for the rest of the world.
Hi, I'm Landy. Welcome to NLA Connect, the National Land Agency's customer engagement platform. NLA Connect is a simple, user-friendly platform designed to help you share your feedback, get support, and updates about land-related matters. Available 24/7, NLA Connect allows you to share suggestions, comments, and commendations, submit queries and report issues, attach files with your requests, track requests and get real-time status updates, connect with NLA client engagement officers, and provide feedback on the service received via the platform. We're making it easier for you to connect with us. You can access NLA Connect via our website, using the kiosk at any of our offices, or scanning the QR code displayed at our locations. Need any help along the way? Check out our FAQs section. It has all the answers you need in one location. NLA Connect, your voice, our priority.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out, don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
We're talking now about the war between the United States and Israel and Iran, a war that has now spread out across the region. Gulf states that held U.S. bases, well, Iran has said, we can't catch Quaco, we catch him short. The idea then that they're not able to get to the United States, and so they've hit important assets in the region belonging to the United States. Assets including those in the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and other states like Oman and Jordan watching as well. Iran's response has been swift, broad, and designed to demonstrate that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, even without its supreme leader, can strike across multiple theaters simultaneously. Now, Iran declared 40 days of mourning for Ayatollah Khamenei and condemned the U.S.-Israeli campaign. In their words, it's been a grave crime, but their condemnation has been accompanied by action. Let's listen to the Iranian foreign minister as he responds when asked by U.S. press as to why Tehran has hit back.
Are you committing that Iran is not and will not build missiles that would have the capability to reach the United States?
I can confirm, yes.
Sir, if that's a red line for you, why is attacking U.S. military bases abroad justified?
But because they are attacking us. They are U.S. military, installations, facilities, bases who are attacking us. We are under attack. Why don't you, recognize this fact? We are under the attack by U.S. forces in the region. So we have every right to defend ourselves. And how to defend ourselves? We attacked, the U.S. bases. This is obvious. This is a very simple fact. And I hope that, and I'm sure that people would understand that. We are not the one who attacked Americans. We are only defending ourselves.
Wayne Golding, hearing now the Iranian foreign minister as he speaks, there are global consequences to what the U.S. and Israel have done with Tehran. In Amoy's overview earlier, she talked about the closing of the strait that now deals with most of the world's oil supply, the Strait of Hormuz, and some of the knock-on effects. From a legal and policy perspective, Wayne, is the U.S. administration concerned about the global impacts of the consequences that they make?
I think this situation was not well thought out. Although we have history to look back at and to see that these kinds of action only brings about more threats, more possibility of harm. And it's so funny that people are thinking, well, we'll start this war, we'll do it from afar, and it cannot affect the homeland. How do they forget about the threat levels we used to put out every day, the different colors, what the threat level is? Remember, it doesn't have to come from a ballistic missile. And the fear that's on the ground in the U.S. is going to build, because there's a fear that either that they're homegrown people who will take action on their own because they're against this war, violence. Safety is of major concern. People are not going to want to travel as much. The economy is going to get a big blow just from the rising price of fuel. That alone is going to send economic shockwaves through the United States. So I don't know if it was well thought out, if they thought, well, we'll just go and do a strike and it's over. They did not learn the lessons of resistance from the Gaza, So I don't think it was well thought out, because they thought it was one and done. And now we're looking at the reality of missiles reaching these other countries that they said, well, we have a defense system that will protect us, but some are getting through. And we have to be concerned about the home country here and what the safety factor is going to be for people here, because I must tell you, history speaks, and you can't use what we would call sledgehammer diplomacy, and you go into somebody's house claiming that you're making them democratic, and in the meantime you're using the sledgehammer to kill the proverbial cockroach. You end up destroying the person's house, and it's going to be long remembered. And that is the other factor that they're not taking into consideration when dealing with this kind of situation. These wars have been going on for eternity, and they ebb and they flow. But when the United States is headlining the attacks on these countries, they cannot expect that these people will not retaliate in any way they can.
Wayne Golding, before I pull in Latoya here on the oil prices that you've mentioned, quickly here, those around in the Gulf have said that they've watched the actions of the United States. They have withdrawn military troops in the countries that you are now seeing strikes taking place. And the bases that Iran is now hitting are mostly empty. Tehran has then said, we will go and hit the hotels that these military personnel are staying in. What does it mean for an ally of the United States to see that in the time that they're most needing the U.S.'s help, the U.S. withdraws itself and leaves them open and vulnerable?
Well, I guess it's probably a pattern, and they say be careful who you think your friends are in times of good times and who your friends are in bad times. I think everybody is of the posture that today we are friends and tomorrow we can leave you in the wide open. You can look back at history of Afghanistan, Iraq, all of these other places, and see where that dedication to these people who supposedly were your allies turned into where they become your enemies. So it's not surprising, and I don't think the allies, these persons, should be surprised. I mean, they saw a deal made with Rwanda the other day to take deportees from the United States, and now Rwanda is on their bad side. So things are fluid as it comes to relationships, and each country should understand that their independence is what is important for their own people. And we're seeing it even in the Caribbean region, where some of our CARICOM member nations are doing what they think is best for them.
And that is part of what we're discussing tonight inside Lead Story Prime, that sort of diverse reaction to who does what best and how to manage the United States as they go through this time of repositioning their foreign policy under President Donald Trump. For you, LaToya, though, having heard Wayne Golding, having seen that clip there, the concerns about oil are being raised. We had a graphic up on the screen a moment ago talking about Brent crude prices. Global oil shocks are real. We've already seen oil go up $10 in a week. The Strait of Hormuz, Iran has said we absolutely positively will be bombing any U.S. vessels that go through the strait. And you know what, mind sharp, nobody else can come through either. For a country like Jamaica, which imports almost all of its energy, for a country like the United States, it depends on energy assets around the world. $100 oil price could be devastating. What are some real reactions that you're seeing people have on the ground in the United States right now? And what do you want to tell Jamaicans as we feel like we're not in the mix, but we still might be dealing with consequences? What are we to look out for as well?
Just briefly, today I got a notification that today we had the largest one-day increase in the price of gasoline since 2005. Okay, that's a little nugget. Today we had the largest one-day increase in gasoline since 2005.
21 years ago is what we're looking at now in context for those watching. That single day jump, though, only expected to get worse as the situation concerning oil moving through some of the most important passageways on the planet gets restricted. What then? What happens in the U.S.? What happens here in Jamaica, LaToya?
We feel it at the pumps. We feel it at the grocery stores. We feel it getting our other services, right? It affects everything that we do. And here, as we are here in the United States, we used to have a saying that, you know, as the U.S. catch cold, Jamaica sneeze, or something to that effect.
Sneeze and we catch cold.
Jamaica.
Yes.
We are absolutely in Jamaica going to feel it. So as much as it happens here, there is going to be that effect for the rest of the Caribbean nation as well. Right? We're smaller nations. We rely heavily on these bigger, the United States and Canada and this and that. So we are going to feel it in Jamaica as much as we're feeling it here in the United States. People going to the pumps, regular gas. I was telling my son the other day, we stopped yesterday for gas, and it was $2.33 per gallon for regular gas on Thursday or Wednesday of last week. Yesterday it was $3.19. I haven't gone to the gas pumps today. It seems like these small jumps, but when you have to calculate a budget, when you have to take care of your pocketbook, when you have to ensure that you have groceries, you have gasoline, you have this, that, and the other, you feel it. And yes, we are going to consistently feel it over these next few weeks, and Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean will also feel the effects of this war.
Before we go, LaToya, and then I'll ask Wayne before we close, are we looking, from your vantage point, at a contained military campaign or the beginning of a much larger war? LaToya, that's you first.
Oh, that's me? I think it's the beginning of a much larger war. I believe that when they went in, like Mr. Golding said, it was not very well thought out. They went in, and initially, I think the president mentioned that he was surprised that Iran has attacked the bases in or allies in the Gulf states, that he was surprised that they attacked Bahrain and Kuwait and the UAE, and he was surprised that they attacked Saudi Arabia. So this was not something that was very well thought out. So initially, when they planned to go in for maybe a few weeks or a couple of days, this is absolutely going to turn out into something much larger than they had initially expected.
Wayne Golding, before we go, President Donald Trump, when the first strike started, had told the Iranians, this is your time to rise up against the regime. They haven't done so. Are you now thinking that you're looking at something that could be a contained military conflict or expand into something much larger?
Well, my opinion is that even when the bombs stop flying, the war will continue. The planners of this war did not take into consideration the resistance that these people would have or will have moving forward, and they will not forget. So we are going to have to be on caution at all times Caribbean people are a fabric of the United States. They're part of the military. They're part of administrations and all of that. So we are affected in the same way that born Americans are. So, you know, I see this being a war of terror and fear for a long time to come.
And that's going to be so unfortunate, not only, as Wayne Golding has pointed out, for the Caribbean nationals and Jamaicans inside the U.S. military, but given what LaToya has said to us, we will all be dealing with the consequences. Attorney at Law Wayne Golding, Attorney at Law LaToya Harridan Lodge, you both have spent time with us inside Lead Story today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we're going to take a break here inside Lead Story and now move you into our global current, taking you through the top 3 stories you need to pay attention to. Some of them having to do with oil, some of them having nothing to do with oil. All of them for you to know. Stay with us.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Hey, what I want?
Hi, I am Candy Pang.
What I want?
What a guan?
That I want.
What a guan?
What I want?
What a guan? Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
What I want? What I want? Dream conquered is another dream game.
Everybody want to save a country right now.
One thing about Jamaicans, we might have differences, but we know when something is good for all of us. And when we work together against crime and violence, we are stronger than ever. And that's how we know the Citizen Security Plan can work.
That one that name CSP.
The Citizen Security Plan is an initiative of the Ministry of National Security in partnership with the European Union. It's an all-of-government effort to create safer streets and build stronger communities. Go to mns.gov.jm to learn how you can play your part.
You're inside Lead Story's Global Current, where we take you through the top 3 stories from around the world. And in each one, a direct line back to Jamaica. Story number 1 is from Trinidad and Tobago. A state of emergency has been declared once again in Trinidad and Tobago. It's its second in 8 months. The first ran from July 2025 to January 31st of this year. This new one was triggered by what authorities are describing as a, quote, warlike ambush outside a police station using AK-47s and AR-15s. Let's listen to Attorney General John Jeremy as he's made the government's case.
5 weeks ago, as the country emerged from a state of emergency, the Honorable Prime Minister expressed her resolve and that of her government to continue to monitor the activities of the criminal gangs in Trinidad and Tobago. She said then that she would not hesitate, if the need arose, to use all powers at her disposal to quell any upsurge in gang activity. Last night, upon learning of threatened further violent actions and planned reprisal killings by gang members, the Prime Minister triggered the provisions of the Constitution and asked Her Excellency the President to declare a state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago.
That press conference happened today. No media were present, and it's been controversial that this announcement has been made without any questions. But the opposition, led by Penelope Beckles, has a different assessment of what's going on there on the islands.
The Prime Minister attended the CARICOM heads of government in St. Kitts, and this is what the Prime Minister had to say. In 2025, with a change of policy to treat with drug cartels and gangs as violent terrorist organizations, the military action by the American military in the Caribbean caused Trinidad and Tobago murder rate to decrease by 42%, or 257 murders. This is just last week. So you have January, that the reduction has nothing to do with the SOE, it has to do with the police. Then you have the Prime Minister going to CARICOM and indicating you have a reduction by 42%.
So you're hearing opposition leader there in Trinidad and Tobago, Penelope Beckles. The opposition's central charge, the government is, in Beckles' words, detaining the deadly without a long-term plan. What she's pointing to is a structural question familiar to policymakers across the Caribbean, one that Jamaica itself has wrestled with. Is an emergency powers framework a security tool, or is it a political instrument that substitutes for failed governance? Well, that's something that we'll continue to look at in Trinidad and Tobago. Let's move now to South Korea, where they said, if you're in charge of the country and you lead an insurgency, you don't get to stay outside. In a verdict that is being watched by constitutional scholars around the world, the president of South Korea, former president of the Republic of Korea, has been sentenced to life imprisonment. Let's take a look.
Supporters of South Korea's impeached former President Yoon Suk-yeol outside the Seoul courthouse as the judge delivered a life sentence. Yoon's declaration of martial law and deployment of soldiers to the National Assembly was ruled an act of insurrection. Yoon's legal team maintains the president's actions did not break the law.
Watching what appears to be a collapse of the rule of law today, I am compelled to question whether we should proceed with an appeal or continue to participate in these criminal proceedings at all.
The verdict draws a line under political turmoil that began in December 2024 when Yoon declared martial law. Citizens and politicians pushed back soldiers in and around the National Assembly, where the declaration was then voted down. Months of street protests followed, along with Yoon's impeachment by the National Assembly and then the Constitutional Court.
Yoon was the first South Korean president to be arrested while still in office, and the second to be successfully impeached, and the third to stand trial for insurrection.
The prosecution had asked for the death penalty. Polls suggest an overwhelming majority of South Koreans support Yoon's removal from office and the criminal trial.
It means that something like this insurrection, this kind of reckless declaration of martial law, will never be carried out again. And in the end, I believe it will come to symbolize the victory of democracy and of the people.
And so that ruling established a precedent that will reverberate across every democracy, that using military force against your own legislature is an act of insurrection. Full stop. For Jamaica, we have constitutional provisions. Section 48 of our Constitution establishes the sovereignty of Parliament. But we're having a big discussion because unlike South Korea, which has these principles, a dedicated constitutional court that can hear cases of executive abuse, Jamaica's final court of appeal remains, for now, the Privy Council all the way in London. So the verdict in this case puts it squarely before us. If a Jamaican executive were to threaten parliamentary sovereignty, do our institutions have the architecture to respond with the same speed and independence? A question that's at the heart of our debates as to where to have our final court of appeal. And finally, oil markets. The war stories have us now looking at the price of everything. This connects every headline tonight. Well, with Brent crude at $83 this morning, last week it was at $73. That's a $10 jump we spoke about earlier. The Strait of Hormuz, Iran says it's closed. If that closure is enforced, analysts are projecting $100 per barrel. Jamaica can't afford that. And so we're looking to see what else is going on. Let's take a listen.
Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has threatened to set fire to any ships that try to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Brigadier General Ibrahim Jabari, advisor to the commander of the Revolutionary Guard, says it will not allow the U.S. access to any oil. Listen.
The price of oil's reached $81 and the world's certainly waiting for it to reach at least $200. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. Our heroes in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Navy and the Army will set fire to any ships that try to pass through the strait. We'll also target their oil pipelines in the region, and we will not allow oil exports from this region until we put pressure on the enemy. The Americans have debts of hundreds of thousands of billions of dollars, and they're thirsty for the region's oil. They'll not get a single drop.
Well, as a result of all that turmoil around the Strait of Hormuz, stock markets in Europe are falling for a second day following declines in Asia. South Korea's benchmark Kospi index tumbled by as much as 6.4%. That briefly prompted regulators to halt trading by triggering a mechanism intended to prevent major market swings. European gas prices jumped more than 20% to the highest levels in 3 years. That's after Qatar's state-owned energy firm halted liquefied natural gas production on Monday, citing Iranian missile attacks on its facilities.
And so you're watching there what the consequences are of war. They don't just stay where the war is happening. Now, tonight at 8, what does Jamaica do in a fractured world? Well, we'll be asking that question and seeing what we can answer tonight inside Lead Story Prime. We've watched the President of the United States, Donald Trump, take a very different position from his predecessors. How does Jamaica and CARICOM navigate? That's Lead Story Prime tonight at 8. That's it, though. Today's edition of Lead Stories Global Lead. I'm Jody Ann Quarry. On behalf of the entire CVM production team, thank you so much for watching another edition of Lead Story. Stay with us next, CVM News. Have a fantastic evening.